with my good friend Bill Konkel. Great to be with you, Bill, and discussing your journey and Voyage Jiu Jitsu. To kick us off, love to have you just share a little bit about your background, where you grew up. Obviously, the Upper Peninsula, Daggett, Michigan,
Yeah.
little smaller
Yep.
than Stevenson, less than 1,000. But just walk us through where you grew up, schools you attended, and then we'll get into what inspired you to start practicing.
For sure. Thanks for having me on, man. So yeah, Bill Konkel. I'm the owner of Voyage Jiu Jitsu in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, but grew up in the UP, like you said, Daggett. Went to Stevenson High School. Um, I graduated there and then went down to Grand Valley State. Picked up a 4-year degree in criminal justice, and then from there moved over to the Detroit area, as you know, moved in with you. And then I found jujitsu not long after that, and that's kind of my background.
What inspired you to get started, or why did you decide to start practicing jiu-jitsu?
It was pretty random. I tell people like I was pretty athletic back in the day, like doing sports, always into basketball, football, baseball, the normal stuff, a little bit of running, and then some of that stuff went away as you know, as you get past college, not as much to do. So I had a guy at the Juvenile Justice Center, which I worked, just invite me to a jujitsu class locally, and I went and checked it out. And after pretty much one class, I was stuck.
Awesome. So besides jiu-jitsu, is there any other styles that you studied?
Yeah, I did a bit of judo, which kind of relates to it, more takedown stuff. Obviously, wrestling is kind of involved in jujitsu as well. I did some Muay Thai, which is more of the striking. And then I actually did a couple MMA fights as well. But once I got through all that stuff within the first few years, I started learning that, jujitsu was my main passion, so I stuck mainly with that ever since.
What do you like that separates it from other ones?
I think the complexity of it and just knowing that you can like get better every day with it, it's so complex that the amount of techniques you learn is endless. Like I tell people like I'm 20 years in now and I'm still learning stuff every day. Whereas like some of the other stuff, maybe like the striking arts, you can learn so many punches and kicks, but I mean, I'm sure you could get better at it, but I just feel like there's way more room to grow in jujitsu and it's never ending. It's not repetitive at all. Something new every day. And that's kind of what I love about it.
Awesome. So tell us about opening Voyage, how that came about or how that
Yeah.
started.
So I did jujitsu for about 10 years up to that point. I was a brown belt. I knew a few of the local gym owners and kind of what they were doing. And, I was very passionate about jujitsu and I was kind of looking at some of the good things in gyms, some of the bad, and just wondering like if I could ever do that. And the idea started to fester. Probably a year went by. So I'm, roughly 10, 11 years into jujitsu at this point and just thinking like, okay, these people have done it. They're pretty successful. I'm gonna shoot this idea out to a few friends, see what happens, and then yeah, kind of just made it happen. Jumped in. I knew there was some risks involved, and but I was willing to take those, and then started up, and I'm best thing I ever did.
Awesome. Who's some past or current mentors you want to discuss or give a shout out to?
Um, I owe a lot of my jujitsu to Jamel McCurry. He's the one that started locally. He kind of guided me through my first like probably decade. A lot of the local gyms kind of came up underneath him in the Clinton Township area. So definitely him. But like as far as the jujitsu gym itself, when I'm running it, I take a lot of things from just local entrepreneurs, small business owners, people like yourself, honestly, like that was a grinder, somebody that had that work ethic that I would really, when it came down to it, I knew it was just one of these things where you get out what you put in, and learning that from people like yourself, you put into it, you get out what you get. So that's the part that I liked about it, and that's the part that I knew I was willing to do. So I think that's what I did, and one of the reasons why we were able to be pretty successful so far.
Awesome. Appreciate that. It's inspiring to watch your journey and everything that all the success that you've had in Voyage. Let's talk about some of the training and discipline. Like, what role does mental training or like meditation play in like your practice?
hmm I would say not as much for me. For a lot of people, it does. I think maybe low key, like not even realizing it does probably for me. I don't do like a lot of like meditating or stuff like that. I think some jujitsu people do. But for me, it's just like mental clarity when I get there. Like a lot of people say, like you kind of forget about all the world's problems or your own problems, and you just kind of like find that zone that you're in with jujitsu, and that's kind of the way I treat it as far as the mental side of things.
How about like daily routines or how has jujitsu influenced that?
Honestly, like my daily routine does revolve quite a bit around jujitsu, and if I'm not like actively involved in it, like let's just say I'm not in the gym that day, I'm still like going through my mind certain things that I can get better at, like technique wise, membership wise, marketing wise. How can I do this better, this better? So it's definitely a thought process that goes through my mind pretty much 24/7.
What does a typical day look for like for you if you could describe a typical day? I know every day can be different for a lot
hmm
of people, but
Like one of my earlier days, so we have early classes a few days a week, and then like on a day like that, I'm getting up at, 5:15, 5:30, get to the gym by 6, teach a class at 6. Sometimes I'll go home and get my daughter ready for school at that point, and then kind of restart the day um, with like a private lesson or two, depending on that. Um, Sometimes I'll teach a noon class that day. So I'll have a 6 a.m., a noon class. Sometimes I'll get a workout in that day. And then by 3 o'clock, I'm picking up my daughter from school, spend some time with the family. And then on a typical evening, I'm back to the gym by like 4 or 5 o'clock, teaching the kids class, 6, 7 o'clock, teaching the adult class, and then, training that whole time too. So that would be like pretty much my day.
wow. What's a fundamental technique or like principle you believe every jiu-jitsu student or should master?
Techniques are techniques that are different. Like there's definitely fundamental things that you can do, but as far as a principle goes, I think everybody that walks through the gym needs to realize like safety is one of the first things you got to learn. Like there's tough guys, fast guys, big guys, small guys. They come in and they think jujitsu is a fight, so like they may jeopardize their own safety or somebody else's safety. So as a principle, we especially at Voyage, we try to tell people, yeah, you can be as strong as you want, you can be athletic, you can do everything you want to do, fast, work as hard as you want, but you do have to keep it safe. So, and that can look a lot of different ways, but that principle alone is being safe is very key because if you get hurt or somebody else gets hurt, now they don't get to train and now you're not getting better at jiu-jitsu.
Right, right. That makes complete sense. How do you approach like injury prevention and recovery in such a demanding discipline? Like,
hmm
there,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
it's big
tell us a little
time
bit
for
more about
me.
that.
hmm It's big time for me being older now, 46. It's for sure on the top of my priority list. Like coming up, I started when I was 25. It's actually kind of a late start when you think about it. The kids 18, 16, 15, 12, 4, my daughter's 6, she started like these people are starting like super early on, and of course their recovery is going to be a little quicker. Jiu-jitsu is very demanding on your body. You're going to get banged and bruised and stuff like that. But for me, being an older person, I actually have switched my routines and my priority lists um, from the past. Before it was super hard training. That's first and foremost. Everything else comes after that. Now it's like the work that I do off the mat. Shout out to Amber Smallridge. She's my trainer. She's a one of my top students. Super knowledgeable trainer. She's gotten me like to be more athletic, more mobile, better recovery, better nutrition. All of these things have um, really excelled my jujitsu game. And at 46, I tell people like I feel better. I'm better at jujitsu than I was at 30 years old, 35. So you can definitely do the work off the mat to help you on the mat.
Oh, makes sense. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about philosophy and some life lessons. What's some core values from jiu-jitsu that have shaped your life the most?
Um, one of the core values I take away, and I think a lot of people do, is like being humble. So there's always going to be someone bigger, tougher, stronger that can tap you out on the mat. So knowing that in jujitsu, I kind of tend to bring that outside of life as well. Like there's always going to be someone better at something than you. So take that, and learn from it, use it, be aware of it, that principle. And then something that I like for the kids, especially, with my daughter starting in it, like being humble like that, but also like the toughness aspect of it. So jujitsu is obviously a tough sport, grappling in general. Um, when those kids feel that on the mat, bumps and bruises, the grappling, pushing, pulling, if they fall down outside of jujitsu or fall off a swing or, get in a little tussle or something, they're not going to be instantly crying. They add that little bit of toughness to them that I think goes a long way in life.
Absolutely. Do you think jiu-jitsu is more about self-discipline, self-defense, or something else?
It could be a combination. I think everybody has different goals. Some people's goal is strictly for self-defense. So I mean, you're definitely going to get those aspects from it. Our gym is more of a sport-oriented gym, so we're designed to get you better to compete, which in my opinion is actually better for self-defense than actual self-defense gyms because we're going live, we're going hard. These things can like pretty much simulate a fight outside of there. So like the sport aspect of it, testing yourself in competition is going to get your adrenaline going, your mindset. Um, so those are the things that I like to take away from that part of it.
You probably have a wide range of what you consider success for your students or just in jiu-jitsu in general. How would you describe that success in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, if your goal is to have self, or self discipline, great. If it's more to protect yourself outside the mat, great. If you want to be a world champion, which we have had some in the gym, great. It's pretty much what you put into it is what you're going to get out. If you have those goals and you just show up and dink around on the mat, you're probably not going to reach those goals. You might get part of it, but not to where you should be, or you know what I mean? I try to tell people like max yourself out, like do the work on the mat, off the mat, so you can reach your full potential, whether it be in, self-defense or discipline or competition.
Love it, love it. How has jiu-jitsu changed the way you like handle conflict in everyday life, or you've even seen yourself or your students?
Yeah, for me especially, I think most people do this, especially if they've been in jiu-jitsu a long time. Um, I find I I run from conflict more. Like I don't run from it, and I'm definitely not afraid of it, but I just find ways to avoid it easier. You're not going to get that hot head that, like if somebody cuts you off or takes your parking spot or something like that. For me, it's easier to just let those things go because I know on the mat I'm fighting for my life a lot of times, and that's what's hard. Somebody dropping something, in front of you or taking too long to turn or something like that. Those are things that, I find way easier to deal with.
All right, makes perfect sense. What's the biggest misconception people have about jiu-jitsu?
Well, immediately, if they're not familiar, they'll say like, "How's that karate going?" Or they think that it's striking, right? So I tell them I do jujitsu. Oh, you're a fighter. You like to punch and kick. No, I tell them it's completely opposite. It's all grappling, grabbing on, taking someone down to the ground, controlling them, and submitting them. It's completely different from punching and kicking. Um, so that would be like the biggest misconception. And then like, well, I definitely can't do that because my knee hurts or my back hurts or, I've had this and that. Trust me when I tell you this, there's every type of person in jujitsu. You can work around it. There's people in wheelchairs that do it. There's people old, like 70 years old, still competing, young kids, 3 years old. So it can be for everyone. It's not for everyone, but it can be if you do it right.
Awesome. Talk a little bit about teaching. Like, obviously, being a student and being a teacher is different. You're going to deepen your understanding of the art. How has that happened for you?
Yeah, 100%. Like I started teaching way back in the day as a blue belt. Um, and you know, going through those lessons in your head beforehand, I think that's kind of what makes a good gym is the instructors that care enough to kind of lesson plan this stuff to really get the most out of it during the class. And I tend to pride myself on that. Like, so I'm thinking throughout the day, okay, how can I get this technique to flow with this one? How can I present this to the class? And that kind of like intricate style is going to get me dialed in on those techniques even more. So I actually encourage like a lot of my upper belt students to teach a class here and there. I'll push them to do it because when you do that, you dial in your own technique and you definitely get better by teaching.
That's great. Awesome. What advice would you give someone just starting out their journey?
You got to realize it's a long game. So, like when people walk through the door, I mean, jujitsu has a very high turnover rate because um, I don't know what people get out of it, but like you're definitely not going to get good in a day or two, or even a week, or a month, or even 6 months. Some people are getting better quicker now, especially depending on your background. But like jujitsu, out of all the martial arts, is definitely the longest to master. So, like, I just tell them, like, hey, keep yourself safe, watch your intensity level. Don't go crazy, keep yourself safe, just learn, walk through the motions, get through the techniques. You're going to pick up a little bit each day, and then you just keep building on that. And really, the key is just to continue to show up. They say, like, one of the sayings is a black belt is just a white belt that never quit. And there is some truth to that. It's kind of corny, but there's definitely some truth to it where people just kind of keep grinding and 10 years later, 12 years, 13, whatever it takes, doesn't matter.
Right. Awesome. How early can someone get started at Voyage?
4 years old is usually what we tell them. So we have an early group, 4 to 7 years old, and then a little bit older, 8 to 15 kids. But yeah, for jujitsu is very physically demanding. You got to have some focus to do it. So anything younger than that I don't think the kids get enough from it. So if you're able to physically handle that and then focus on it well enough, yeah, I think that's about right at that age. So 4 years old, yeah.
In four and all the way up. Yeah. So wide
All
range there. Awesome. Have you ever used jiu-jitsu in a real world self-defense situation?
I can't think of a time that I had to, you know what I mean? More so the mental side of things, like I've heard plenty of stories where kids getting into tussles, using it appropriately. Um, some adults, some police officers every day. I love when the police officers train with us and then come back and tell us a story like, yeah, I had to apprehend this person, just controlled them, everybody was safe, kept him safe, kept myself safe. Beautiful. For me personally, though, like I said, I try to avoid those conflicts. Never really had to um, completely use it. Now I have like when I worked at the juvenile justice center, as far as having to control some like kids that are raging out and stuff, definitely had to use it in those times to like just control somebody and then make sure everybody's safe. So those would be the times.
Awesome. Share with us where Voyage is located.
It's in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, 12 Mile and Harper. So anybody around that, that Metro Detroit area is free to stop in anytime. We have an open door policy for anybody, so they can come in. We offer a week free. Even for people from other gyms drop in all the time. So it's a cool thing.
What about a website or any social media that you want to give a shout out to?
Yep, the website is voyagejujitsu.com. Check it out. We're just giving it a new facelift, so some cool stuff on there. We have our socials, same thing, Voyage Jiu Jitsu, Facebook, Instagram. We just started a website and a social for War in the Shores, which is an event that we have coming up in September, a super fight event. So if you're a local person listening to this and you want to get a match, a super fight match, we're going to have a cool venue, a cool setup for that. So check that out as well.
Awesome. Anything else you want to tell us before we wrap up?
That's about it, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for everything you've ever done for me, Chris. You guys kill it at FITTEAM. It's one of, like I said, I look up to you guys, try to steal some of your stuff to use for my good. And yeah, man, that's about it.
Awesome. Appreciate your friendship over the years, and like I said, so proud of everything you've accomplished and continue to do.
Thank you, man.